Good evening, everyone. Earth's Mightiest critics are gathered here on a somber occasion
Mm.
to discuss the film that no one is talking about anymore, but
Nope.
which just came out last
Oh.
week. Jurassic Park Rebirth, a film that has been quashed under the dinosaur hype style weight of Superman, which we'll be discussing next week. And oh boy, will you want to tune into that one, because there are opinions aplenty. But tonight we're going to talk about a film that helped me through something. It helped me work out something. The idea that it is okay to just say, yes, I am a professional film critic, but I have the agency, the license, even the duty
Ooh.
to
Scruples
say,
even.
yes, scruples, to say no more.
Oh.
I am not watching any more new Jurassic Park movies or Jurassic World, what have you, past this point. Jurassic
Wow.
World Rebirth was the last straw. We're going to talk about why tonight. And maybe someone on this panel could turn me around. I don't know if that's at all possible, but we'll
I don't
see.
know. Yeah.
Maybe you guys aren't the crew to do it.
Mhm.
But before we get into it, though, I want to wish a very happy 50th birthday to our very own Mark Krawczyk of the Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room podcast.
Thank you.
Who's spending his birthday night with us here on the live stream. So big ups to Mark.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that quite a bit. Yeah, happy to be here. So had a great day, spent it with the wife, and then evening when my son got off for work, we had a nice dinner at a great family restaurant. And I got a gift of a low budget film box set from TerrorVision. Phantom Brother, Beware, and Basement Jack. Wonderful release. Can't wait to look at that. And now I'm here with you, fine gentlemen. So,
well, if we had a virtual birthday cake, we'd blow out the candles for you. But
thank you. I appreciate it. This is how I spend my evenings. So I love spending it and talking movies, even if we don't agree with movies. Which
save that for next week, Mark. I know
which we will save for next week.
Yeah,
there won't be blood. We'll have to just put out a few ground rules and maybe extra padding on the walls.
Round rules. Anyway, never cage match only. But but yes, thank you. Speaking of blowing, we are talking about Jurassic World Rebirth tonight. But before we get into that, Don Shanahan of Film Obsessive and Every Movie Has a Lesson and all other things movie related on the internet. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us tonight.
All right. Well, we're going to get into this movie, which I keep calling Jurassic Park 7, because that's really what it is. There were the original trilogy, the World trilogy, and now I don't know if this was supposed to be the beginning of something new. It's one of those weird movies that feels like the launch of a new franchise, but which at the end of it doesn't really leave any explicit door opens to another film, which is weird.
This is like Toy Story 5. You know what I mean? Or Toy Story 4, where like you have a very, not that the last movie, I mean, Jurassic World Dominion, I guess when you bring back the legacy characters and you have this grand finale of them and then the new people, you have Chris Pratt, you bring everybody together for a big loud finish, which wasn't very good, but at least it was a finish. There's a coda there somewhere. To open this one up for like a very years later side adventure feels very Toy Story 4, where like, not that it undoes, like, again, it doesn't undo a great ending like Toy Story 3 does, but it feels like a side quest. And maybe that's better suited for, the way TV does side quests, like, Mandalorian or, some of these, that realm of things. But I don't think that, Universal and Peacock hasn't tried doing that. I think Camp Cretaceous, the animated one, is about as far as they've ever gotten with the serialized version of Jurassic Park World, whatever. But for this movie, it's just, it feels like a side quest.
Yeah. When you said years later, it reminded me of 28 Years Later, which was discussed here on the show a couple weeks back. And I feel like it's a good bit of connective tissue because there is something going on with this summer and blockbuster movies and opening title cards that raise way too many questions that the films themselves don't answer. And I'm going to include, we'll talk about it next week, I'm going to include Superman in this. But 28 Years Later, Jurassic World Rebirth, and then, next week's movie at hand, Superman, they begin with these kind of world setting, here's where we are now points that usually those are meant to set things up and like, okay, here's where you
Right.
are. We're going to move forward. But in the opening like minute or two, I'm left thinking, wait a second, that doesn't line up with where we've been before. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? And then all of a sudden we're off to the races, and I'm left to just ponder on these things the rest of the film. In this one, they're talking about people are bored with dinosaurs now. They're living among us. What's that?
You don't say. Yeah.
Well, but the thing is,
it's like a weird meta echo. I don't know how to explain it.
But it's the thing is, it's the premise of Jurassic World.
Right.
Where that was the whole thing of like, they have this big dinosaur zoo and dinosaurs are back and they got people looking at their phones. And I'm like, that's a great premise for a film. And I did not care for that middle trilogy or whatever you want to call it. Although I did like the second one, Dominion, a bit, because it was a bit different. Took place in a mansion or
Fallen Kingdom.
Or Fallen Kingdom. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Dominion was garbage, but
terrible. Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's like you're resetting back to a place that we'd been, 13 years ago. And I don't know if you're skipping over those movies. They don't, I think, really mention them. They make references back to the original Jurassic Park, but there's no mention of Chris Pratt's character or Bryce Dallas Howard or anybody or anything that happened. The Dr. Grant gets a name drop by Jonathan Bailey's character, but that's about it. And it's did that bug anybody else but me when going into this?
Not really. I mean, and we've already heard the buzz. They're trying to launch yet another trilogy with this film.
Okay.
At least that's a lot of the buzz that I talked. I don't know if that's by the time they got to actually shooting, if that's what they were going to do, but I know it was talked of that this was going to start off a whole nother storyline, a trilogy with these characters. So that could be it, especially with the title Rebirth. It's like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, you don't just stop at Rebirth. Like, you got to swaddle and get to some diapers and,
they don't mention world then and everything, but it's almost it's just implied because they talk about, it was already addressed in Dominion, how the dinosaurs were starting to die off around the world. And now they've continued that here to where they're saying they've congregated basically around the equator. So it's one of those to where this is taking place, I believe, in the same or just after Dominion, but this is a whole group of people who, as they said, people have lost interest. So at this point, people may not even address the original, the park in Jurassic World, because that was at this point in time, like 10 years ago now, I would almost say about.
Well, it's also buried underneath volcanic lava at this point, because they conveniently, destroyed the whole OG End World Island in the second trilogy. So.
Right. So that island's gone. So with it being out of sight, out of mind, people may not have even talked about it anymore, and there were other zoos around the world, which that addresses here. People have continually closed out those because people lost interest. So I think this is in that same world. They just chose not to reference the other Jurassic Worlds as much as the originals, because it's like, as I've used the term before, as Scott Davis has, we've used it here, the requel angle of, this is a sequel, kind of a reboot, but not. We'll throw in some similar elements enough to let you know where this is, but that's about it.
The thing is, this is, in a weird way, I'm thinking about it, like, this is what a lot of people complain and want with Star Wars. Like, do we always have to tell a Skywalker story? Can't we just introduce some new characters and start something new? And in a weird way, this is Jurassic's attempt to do that. Like, echo and name drop, like you said, the history that's been done before, occupy the same world, but go someplace else other than the Thanksgiving dinner table of the Skywalker and Palpatine family. So, like, I was okay with that. And David, bringing back OG screenwriter David Toohey into this, like a guy who knows where this can go and do it in a thrilling way. Like, the potential is there and the concept is there to be patient and see what they want to do. I think another way this reminds me of, in terms of like stopping and starting in fits and spurts, even though there's a hugely longer gap, is last year's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where we are clearly still in that world, but obviously we're 3 centuries later, where that's a way bigger jump than this one. But just like, there's a pump the brakes moment of like, hey, this is just the first step of what they maybe think could go a little further just take it as the first step, see where it goes, wait for the next one. Where I wasn't, I because things weren't as tied up as you were hoping for, Ian, or as wrapped up at the end, or as open ended at the end for a sequel. I'm like, all right, hey, I had a good time. Let's see what's next. So, David Kep, sorry about that, Charlie.
Yeah, David Kep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Bring up
that's
that
what
comment here.
and
Thank you.
it's one of those things where, and people will call me, especially next week, I'm sure people will say hypocritical or whatnot. They're like, Mark, but you like the Fast and Furious films or whatnot. I'm like, yes, the Fast and Furious films follow a similar formula, but they're always trying to one up the next movie. In this one, it felt like they were trying to have their cake and eat it too. They were trying to one up the other films, but not break away from the other films. So much so that it held too familiar to the formula. Because even with the Fast and Furious, even though they have similar elements, and you go, okay, at one point we're going to get a slow-mo car show parking lot with a bunch of people partying. You're going to get that. You get those. But that's also a different type of movie than Jurassic Park. That's not a world building. That's just following these crazy people. It's more about them than the situations. But here, you literally, I literally felt like they cut and pasted parts from the other script and just threw them in here, down to the way shots are framed, down to the dialogue, down to the situations. I'm like, this is all too familiar. So by the time you get to the end with the surprise different dinosaur that you get, though they're all different, but especially that one at the end, you don't really care because they haven't really built it up. I mean, the T-Rex in the original, and even some of the later sequels where they had their unique new dinosaur, the Vicious, you got hints, you got more glimpses of it. It made itself known a lot earlier than what we got here. By the time we get to the one here, we're like, oh, and then it doesn't really do anything.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just
well, it's also that we're getting away, especially in I think they called it the D-Rex, or because it's hyphenated.
I like Beluga Rex.
Well, it's the D- Rex for sure.
That's true.
But I mean, we're getting away from these things looking like dinosaurs,
right?
I mean,
Which was the point of this island,
Well, right, but the idea that these are kind of mutant dinosaurs, all of the other dinosaurs that we encounter look like dinosaurs. They look like someone spliced a couple of different dinos together. Even the little cute triceratops, baby Grogu thing, Dolores has kind of a weird, almost like a T-Rex tail with some weird striping on it. But the D-Rex, I've heard that referred to as a cross between the Rancor and then the alien human hybrid at the end of Alien Resurrection.
Oh my gosh, good pull. That's
and throw in the alien queen as well, because he had the extra hands in there.
The six limbs.
Six limbs.
I couldn't even see them. It was so like.
Hey, my eyes are up here, Ian. My eyes are up here.
Again, stop referring to Superman. That's next week.
Good point, right?
But that's. I was so disappointed because this movie was so conventional and safe. But in the opening few minutes, I thought it might get just bug nuts enough for me to love it, because we start on this island 7 years ago, this InGen research facility. And of course, there's all these people in like white lab coats and the big labs with the smoky glass. And you got these creatures behind there and safety protocols. Someone leaves, has to rush and finish a Snickers bar to get into the lab to do some kind of a study. They don't throw the wrapper away. It floats into the top secret, double secured door. And I thought, dude, are we going to get a dinosaur mixed with Snickers?
I thought we were going to get a Betty White and Abe Vigoda commercial. Like, hey, are you a little grumpy, D-Rex? Have a fucking Snickers. Like, that would be funny. Like the product placement's strong for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's preposterously silly, and it always is. So.
Here's the thing. If it had been like that and we came back to it, it would have been like the vegetable gremlin from Gremlins 2, where, because the giant bulbous head, I could imagine, oh, that's the giant peanut from the Snickers bar. But no, we don't even get that level of detail. No. It's just, and then of course,
the fly, like something really weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Brundlefly, yeah.
you know,
Goldblum.
it's one of those things where the scriptwriter is a hit and miss scriptwriter. It's like if you look at his body of work, some of his early, I mean, this is the guy who was part of the original Jurassic. So you're like original Jurassic Park writer, great. But if you look at his last few films, The Mummy, you're welcome. As well as a couple others, they've been more miss than hit lately. And then you get to this one, and the problem was, like I said, my son hated this movie even worse. Honorable Son 1, literally when the credits started rolling, he goes, "That was abysmal." He enjoyed the other films to various degrees. And part of the reason was, as he said, it felt like the script literally, and I hate to use the phrase, but it's true, felt like it was written by AI because it borrowed from every other film. And the problem is it borrowed from it so exact. I mean, down to, we have an alternate island and this is where the real research happened. And I'm like, wait, island. wasn't there the other alternate island in Jurassic Park 3 where they did the real research? Wait, but that's not this island. That's a different island than this one.
By the way, still out there, Site B, Island Nublar. Like, I guess I heard I had to do some Wikipedia research because, like, surely this is like, because this island does pop up for one flashback's worth of purposes 7 years ago, but we know 10 years ago was Jurassic World, where they would have had to engineer those dinosaurs before 2015, where that's got to be a 25-year-old island at least, let alone if it's 93 plus, you know? So, but yeah, Site B, like, I guess they, like, those dinosaurs off screen, off story, you know, canonical notes, like, got moved to the facility that was in the Dolomites in the third movie, you know? So, like, that apparently that island's now empty.
I don't know. You guys are invested way more than I am. You remember stuff about the other movies. I only remember things about Jurassic Park and a little bit from Fallen Kingdom. So
not
kudos
a Lost
to
World
you.
guy?
Confession time. I have never seen the Lost World Jurassic Park.
Wow.
It's worth a spin.
It's funny. I was describing the whole Lost World thing, the second one, to my friend, because I was like, well, yeah, and you know, they had the first book, and then you had the movie, and then you had Lost World, which the book was actually a sequel to the movie, not a sequel to the original book. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like,
that's great.
Oh yeah. I'm like, the book, because why? I'm like, well, because two of the characters died in the book and they show up again in Lost World. And it's like, okay, so the book's not a sequel to the book, it's a sequel to the movie. And I'm like, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's dinoception right there. I can't even follow what you're talking about.
But like, compared to today's like PG-13 safe stuff, Lost World kind of goes for it a little bit. Like, it does. It's a good Hunter's movie, like the camper scene. Like, it's worth it. To compare to today's attempts, it's still Spielberg. It's still worth a spin if you get to it, Ian. I don't know.
Well, I own it. I just never watched it because I got the Spielberg collection with a whole bunch of his movies in it. But here's the thing, and this is my problem with these legacy sequels and this IP slop that we're getting, is that I'm a victim of what I complain and theorize about on this show all the time, which is the more these movies come out, the less newer generations are going to be interested in seeking out the stuff that inspired them.
That's fair.
Like,
that's a good word.
If the Jurassic World movies, or even this one, are a moviegoer's first foray into this world, and they're like, that was stupid. Wait, there's 6 more of these things? I'm not going to bother. Which means they're going to miss out on the one masterpiece out of this entire thing. And it's just, that's my other, I'm going to write a book about this someday. Maybe.
About generational, like the wake of legacy sequels that spoil or just devalue originals, like that kind of thought process.
It's just, possibly, but because the idea is, and studios would never go for this because it's all that they have at this point. They're spending billions of dollars to acquire these things. But like, why can't someone just say, like I am now, we're not doing Jurassic Park or Jurassic World anymore. There was one great movie 32 years ago. No one is ever going to come close to touching it.
That's true. But money talks. Like, it's
why bother?
They're selling toys every year. Like, They know what they're
And
doing.
But
It's a
well,
machine.
no, they okay, and then the movie opened to like
Yeah.
well,
$313 million
I mean, that
globally.
means another one's coming for sure.
oh God,
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe,
Well,
maybe, and I'll tell you why. Because depending on how much they spent on making this movie, like we said at the top of this show, no one. It's been out a week as of tomorrow. I think it hasn't even been out a full week, and
Yeah.
yet the entire movie conversation is Superman now, and then you got
Well, that's
Fantastic Four coming in a couple of weeks. So I think people are going to forget about this movie. And yes, it made a lot of money in its opening weekend, but that's global figures. And we've talked movie math before. You know, you've got the marketing, you've got the theater chain cut, you've got all this stuff. So it has to make ridiculously more money in order to justify a sequel. Because if they fall short, they're gonna be like, well, yeah, but we didn't make anything.
Yeah.
oh, and
I'd be curious to see. I'd be curious to see week 2 drop.
Oh, yeah.
Especially against Superman. Like if this is 60 plus, that's telling. That's true.
Yeah, no, I mean it's gonna hit the it's gonna hit the 20. It's gonna hit still the 20-day mark of hitting streaming. I already feel that with Rebirth is that it's going to be another one of those where it's in streaming and it's still in some theaters because of the contract that studios have for their big tentpoles now as well. They make a contract with the theaters going, you will put it on this size screen for this many weeks if you want to carry it at all, and so they have to agree. But then the studio goes, oh, by the way, we're also going to be putting it on streaming in about 20 days, even though we told you to carry the movie for a month. Disney's, I'm not sure that's the negotiation. I do know because, yes, I talk a lot with the manager at the theater because it's my second home. But and our town is small enough to where I talk to the manager, and they said, yeah, they are under contract with some of these big movies, especially Disney and their Marvel films. The reason some of those movies haven't left is because they have to play them for so many weeks, regardless, if they want to show them on their opening weekend. And so they agree to it.
Can they get around that by like projecting them in the bathroom or something and not taking up a full?
No, I mean, it goes down to smaller, but I mean, so that's what you have. And so, I see Rebirth hitting the streaming probably by end of July or early August. You're going to see probably in streaming, even with that box office, because as we've all said, the window has now shortened on any movie, even your Fantastic Four and your Superman. They're already showing pre-sales for your discs, and the movie's not even out in theaters. And they're already, hey, it's going to be released on limited edition steelbook edition. First steps, Fantastic Four, and all that. And you're just like, the movie's not even out yet. So they're already planning for the post-theater market before the film's even released.
And Universal is notoriously quick with that hook. Like Disney. Disney will at least, like, I think what Captain America Winter Soldier Thunderbolts like just hit streaming.
It just went the streaming
VOD,
this
week, and that would be 2 months and change,
right?
8 weeks. So that's it's about as big of a window as it gets nowadays, where Disney at least holds a little bit, but Universal, like the Fall Guy last year, Universal does not wait. Like it'll be 17 days. Like
Well, and that it's kind of look. It's a bad strategy in theory because you give people an excuse to stay home. Right. But also, if the movie is not, if it's crickets in the theater, then you can have people rent it at home. Maybe.
Right.
So they're at least pulling in some revenue from it.
And I know we haven't even really dove into this film yet, but the thing.
Wait, Mark, I'm sorry. It's a movie. It's not a film.
Sorry. Okay, I apologize.
Sorry, Martin.
Movie.
Jeez.
I'm sorry. The movie.
Sure.
But in all honesty, I mean, I said it in my review. I'm like, I enjoyed it a little bit more than my son in that I did find some entertainment value, but unlike some of the other Jurassic Park films, this is definitely a watch and forget film. It doesn't add anything. Playing the angle of, oh, look, they were genetically modifying dinosaurs and creating new ones. We're like, we knew that 2 movies ago when they were selling black market dinosaurs that were modified in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, where we literally had them human experiments, which was the biggest twist of them all in that.
Well, we knew this 32 years ago because that's messing around with dinosaur DNA. That's how we got Jurassic Park and all that. So, I mean, we will talk about the movie at hand in a second, but it is kind of that idea of like, even if they do make a sequel or try and turn this into a trilogy, where is there to go from here?
Space.
Because
Space, just like the horror films. If all else fails,
dude, I'm telling you, if the only way I'll go watch another one of these, this is the asterisk on my moratorium, is if, and I'm not watching any more of the Fast and the Furious movies. I gave up after like the last 2.
I gave up when Paul died at 7. I haven't been back yet.
If Dominic Toretto and his gang are recruited by the government, like Kurt Russell comes back and says, "Hey, we need you to get this dino DNA," I will watch the hell out of the Fast and the Jurassic and the Furious.
The Jurassic and the Furious.
They're the same studio. The universe is possible. That would be hilarious.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Just then Richard Dreyfuss beams down in a spaceship at the end and says, "Hey, boys, you're coming with me."
Let's just Universal. A dragon shows up and what's his name? Hiccups on it. Like there's just so much. Like Universal could play around if they want to. And at this point, I wouldn't put it past them. You're so right. Like, what was the rumor? They were going to merge Fast and Furious and G.I. Joe or something?
No, the Transformers and G.I. Joe was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Hasbro has been stumbling and sputtering for quite some time, but they did work, and there was pre-production work on a crossover. Right. Literally, the last Transformers film teased G.I. Joe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
the Beast ones. It teased G.I. Joe with it because they literally had a scene at the end where they were recruiting 2 of the people involved with the events of Transformers to G.I. Joe. And I'm like, and me being the 80s little kid, me was like, you know what? I don't care if these other movies were kind of crap. Give me this. Please give me this now. Yeah.
Well, you got me onto another damn tangent, Mark. But I mean, I think you let both franchises die or go dormant. And then in about a decade, you start adapting what's going on in the comics right now with the Energon universe, where they're doing Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Void Rivals.
You've got an entire franchise there that combines the coolest, weirdest elements from all those franchises into a cohesive story. I had to stop reading comics a couple months ago due to outside circumstances, but up until then, I've been enjoying those comics for like the last 2 years, and they're just wild. But let's talk about Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson plays Zora, who is a mercenary for hire. She's contracted to go to this island by a shady industrialist from a pharmaceutical company and a pharmaceutical company.
Correct.
Looking to...
Yeah, totally agree.
Looking to harvest dino DNA, of course, to create a more perfect heart medication that can be sold for billions of dollars.
But it can only come from the biggest, baddest dinosaurs, which sounds like even more cockamamie.
Oh my God, that was such a convoluted reason. Their hearts are bigger.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's not how that works.
No, not at all. Hemoglobin's hemoglobin. I don't care who you are. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to the ridiculousness of the ultimate plan for this stuff later. Open source DNA. My God. So she is part of a team now. She recruits Mahershala Ali and his band of merry mercenaries who are good at getting people in and out of places. The whole idea is that Scarlett Johansson's character is not going to ask questions. She was recruited because she doesn't have any ethics and very little morals as far as anybody can see. So she's going to go in and get the job done and not ask questions. She encounters Jonathan Bailey's character, who is recruited to be, the dude in the chair, the scientific expert, the dino expert whose museum is closing because no one likes dinosaurs anymore. He's offered the chance of a lifetime to go and experience actual dinosaurs because he studied under Dr. Grant. And it's interesting because they could have done something here as far as a side story. But if you look at Jonathan Bailey's age, he's about probably in his early 30s, I would imagine.
He's 37 in real life.
Okay, 37. Yeah. That means he would have been 5 when the original Jurassic Park, not the movie came out, but in real time. So someone who grew up, he almost did not know a world in which dinosaurs had not come back to life. So you could have really done something with that instead of a throwaway line about, I studied under Alan Grant. Can we pull over and talk about that, please? But anyway, they're all on this expedition to go out to this island, and right as they're like 30 miles away from it, or 30 minutes or something, there's a distress call because, oh wait, a few minutes earlier we stopped the movie dead in its tracks. I felt like they'd spliced the wrong reels together if they did such a thing. I know it's all digital, but that we focus on this family who are out in the middle of the ocean going on this quest to get to South Africa or where the hell they're going. They encounter a couple of seaborne dinosaurs that attack the boat, and they are stranded. And so our mercenaries go to pick them up, and then they get attacked by the same dinosaurs. They end up crashing conveniently into the exact island they need to go to. The groups are separated, and the video game quest continues because you have to get DNA from a dinosaur from the water, one from the air, and one from the land. Wouldn't you know it?
We need like a military, like trumpeting, rally call song, like in the Marines,
I would not have been surprised, nor would have been surprised if they picked up like a little mushroom and someone ate it, and then there's like a little 1-up that pops over their head. It's such a quest nonsense. But this family, I found them jarring and annoying and completely unbelievable because it's a dad and his teenage daughter and his pre-teenage other daughter, and their shithead, the older daughter's boyfriend, who I think it's implied that when we first meet them, like he and the older daughter come up from below decks and they're like barely clothed. And I'm like, were they having sex on this boat in the middle of the day while
they were
dad
just
and little
sleeping.
daughter? Oh yeah.
They just said that they said it. They were just sleeping.
Yeah, the birthday boy knows. Come on.
And the whole idea was like, she was like, dad, the dad was like, I knew you wouldn't have come along if we hadn't invited your boyfriend. Like, no, that's not how that works at all. Especially if your boyfriend doesn't know anything about being on the water, going on this thousands of miles treacherous cruise with someone who, like on this small vessel with someone who doesn't know jack about being on the water or dinosaurs. Apparently, that's a danger. That's a risk. I didn't buy any of it, and I wanted all of these people to die. And wouldn't you know it, at the end of the film, all 4 of them are still alive and kicking.
Yeah. Well, it's the Jurassic Park rule. You just don't kill kids, And I knew as soon as they showed up, almost to use Mike Crowley's word of plot armor, I'm like, well, they're going to make it. Every single one of them. At worst, you're going to have like maybe the boyfriend would show true colors of being a dick, and like he's the sacrificial lamb of the 4, but dad's not gonna die in front of his daughters. But yeah, you're right, all 4 made it hilariously. So
I thought at least the boyfriend would eat it or get eaten. So excuse me. I thought for sure, just because of the formulate, and I think that's the unevenness of it is. This film wanted to follow a basic formula, but it didn't want to be the tropes that set up those basic formula. But by doing so, you get this mush of a film because it wants to bring in the family element. But if you watch Jurassic World 3, they did it far better than they did it here with the conflicted, family, and that they handled that so much better than the family here. They have the stoner boyfriend who's useless, but then he's not, and he's not in good graces with the father, but then he is in good graces with his father because when he has to, he can actually become useful. So they don't want him to be the useless stoner boyfriend, but then he becomes useful, but then then he's got this bad self-image. He is like, oh shit, we're going too cliche. We've got to change it. And that's the way it is with everything. Even ScarJo's group, ScarJo, take Black Widow and take away all of Black Widow's sins, but still take away the actions she's done as far as not the killing part, but that's pretty much her character. I didn't buy for a moment that either her or the rest of this group were these badass mercenaries who have been through hell and back because they were continuously upbeat. And I'm not saying they have to be depressed and everything, but they're on a mission. And at no point did it feel like they were on an actual mission, like they were in the headspace for an actual mission. And then they would try to do these paused character moments that were so badly written that you fell back into the cliche. I mean, Giorgio was with a partner who she lost. And
the
so she's
vagaries are,
she's dealing with that. And she's dealing with that as much as they realize, oh, wait, we wrote this part for the character. We've got to come back to it. It's like they forget about it. And again, I'm not saying they have to be 100% cynical, but what I am saying is if you're going to have them in these roles, if you're going to try to paint these people, I didn't buy any of their characters.
Well, and I think part of the problem is that Scarlett Johansson is Black Widow. And she's a Marvel superhero. I know this is a Universal picture, but she can't really play characters anymore if she's going to be in a big franchise movie. It would have been really interesting if she had been this heartless mercenary, someone who doesn't have the charm. I mean, she's kind of got the physique, and she can stare you down and be quite intimidating. But like if she had been this kind of ruthless killer, and that been a contrast with the Jonathan Bailey character who's trying to do the right thing, and they come to blows, or maybe he ends up trying to defend the dinosaurs, and he has to go up against this team of mercenaries, like a dark version of the colonial Marines from Aliens or something like that. That would have been interesting. But she has these, she starts melting like this facade because she is very cold in the beginning, but very quickly that starts to melt. And when Jonathan Bailey is like, I don't remember hardly any of these characters' names, so I'm just going to call them by the actors because it doesn't matter.
All right.
But when he's like, hey, what if we didn't sell this DNA to this corporatist asshole? What if we gave it to the world? And she's like, I'd never really thought about that before. I'm like, really? You've never thought about it?
Yeah, come on.
or doing good. I mean, the reason she is a mercenary, a hired killer, or a hired smuggler, possibly a hired human trafficker, because that's kind of implied with Mahershala Ali's gang, is because she has thought about these things and said, I don't care. I want the money.
Right.
But you don't buy into that. You don't buy in when she acts greedy. You don't buy into it. And just like Ali's character, don't get me wrong, I love the actor. I liked his portrayal. His is one of probably the best performances. I liked his character quite a bit.
I loved Green Book.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed his character quite a bit. But again, I didn't buy the role that his character was supposed to be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go the angle of these being hard-nosed, hard mercenary that do this kind of dangerous living, most of these people did not feel like they've been doing that they feels like they've been more, no offense, Han Solos, where they've been smuggling stuff secretly and under the radar. They feel more like that than what they're trying to paint them being as these hard-nosed, no nonsense, no morals type of thing, because she has morals that show up really, really quick.
It felt like the A-Team.
And the scientist character, they did not know what to do with this guy.
He's all over the map too a little bit.
Tonally, he's all over the map. Yeah,
is he the nerd? Is he the worrywart? Is he the altruistic good guy, or is he?
Well, I mean, those
romancing Scarlett Johansson's evil person. Like, are they? Where's the wavelength? You're right.
He's the most consistent, I think, the character that makes the most sense, because you can be the nerdy scientist and the worrywart and all this stuff. I don't buy that she would necessarily give him the time of day, but that goes back to what we're talking about with her character being all over the place, right?
Too. I mean, come on.
Well, hey, but here's a question, like, or even just an idea for a film. We know that these guys can get in and out of places, and they're very good at dealing with people, but have they had any experience with dinosaurs? And if not, why not? We've established in some of the other world movies that there are underground networks of mercenary people who traffic in dinosaurs.
Right.
Like, are these those people? And if not, why wouldn't the guy from the medical company want to seek out specifically those folks?
Yeah.
And also, it's a crime that you have Ed Skrein, who plays one of the heavies on Mahershala's crew, and he's dispatched within like 10 minutes of appearing on screen. Now, I am going to, again, I'm going to raise my hand and say I am one of the few defenders of the Rebel Moon films, especially the director's cuts.
I like the Rebel Moon films. Thank you.
We've talked about this.
Yes.
But one thing that cannot be denied is he gives a great performance in those films as the heavy. So when he shows up, I'm like, oh,
There we
dude,
go.
he's gonna
Yeah.
be the heavy in this film. He's gonna turn on the rest of the crew or something like.
Yeah.
No, you could have gotten any muscle bound non-actor to be in that
Mhm.
role. And it's not even a Janet Leigh thing, like, oh, I expect big things from this. Like, no, nobody knows who this actor is, even though he's had, plenty of shots and done quite well, and they just dispose of him. There's so many questions I have about this movie from the opening titles, through to the point where we're talking about here. But then the movie decides we're just going to be Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. They rip off so many scenes and moments from the other films that I don't think there's an original sequence in this entire film, except for the gag where the idiot boyfriend is going off in the jungle to take a whiz, and he's in the extreme foreground. You see a couple of velociraptors sneak up behind him, and he freezes and he stops peeing, and then a pterodactyl raptor or something comes down, eats the velociraptors, and then he keeps on peeing. It's supposed to be a giant laugh moment. Crickets in the theater I was in. People were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
The only thing people were excited about with that scene is like, oh, hey, raptors.
Exactly.
That's the last we see of them.
I mean, because in the end of the day, these films, we talked about Fast and Furious earlier. In the end of the day, the series seemed to never quite embrace why people, well, it did, and then it lost it again, why people wanted to watch these films. They wanted to see their dinosaurs come to life. And that was what the first three films were. The first three films, even if you don't quite care for Lost World or care for Jurassic Park 3, at least you got what you wanted. You got one unique, like, modified dinosaur, usually some genetic one, but all the rest were dinosaurs that you were familiar with, that you knew. In here, you've got mutant creatures all over the place, so you don't recognize nearly any of the actual dinosaurs that you have in here. So you take away kind of that childhood charm of, oh, I get to see my favorite dinosaur here. You get to see, as my son said, an ankylosaur briefly. Yeah. And we got to see raptors briefly, but mostly it was
one straight T-Rex scene with the boats.
One straight which that scene didn't make any sense because I'm like, why are you still dragging the boat? Why are you still dragging that huge raft? And he's right there. Yeah. You have them wait. You do a scene where you pass time and say it gets to be night, and suddenly the T-Rex has walked away. You think it's safe, and then you drag the raft out, and then all of a sudden T-Rex shows up. You don't sit there and have them do it because at the end of the day, I noticed this as well. They fell back. I think this was the other problem I had. The only tense moments that they felt were the most intense were the child in peril moments. It was like, what do we do with this scene? Let's put the child in peril. That little girl is going to be so traumatized and needs so much freaking therapy by the end of this. I ain't kidding. Look at every single plot turn where it's supposed to be really intense, except for the one bird scene with the egg. Yeah, it's child in peril is where your most intense scenes are coming from.
But that's the problem that we've established. Is Don called it? I think it was Don. Plot armor, or they were impervious the moment they show up on screen.
Right.
There's no chance they're killing the kid. No chance.
Right.
And I've heard people say that this is, some of the reviews said this is, fun and it's a return to like the scary Jurassic Park. I'm like,
I had fun.
No.
I'm not gonna lie, but
I'm glad you did, because I didn't have any fun, because part of the only fun I could derive from literally Jurassic Park 7 is if I was going on a ride that I hadn't been on 6 times before. And that's where I was at with this movie. And if they had killed that little girl, I think that would have been fantastic. Kill her early, have her drown and not even get taken out by a dinosaur, because, and this goes back to something that we were talking about earlier this week, Mark, on your show, Jaws, which, like you, turns 50 this summer. And you watch Jaws, and that is something that I talked about on your live stream. That was a movie that kicked off the idea of the summer blockbuster. And the advantage it had was it didn't know what summer blockbusters were or what they would become. So what it was a serious movie written for adults, about adults, that adults could also bring kids that would probably be traumatized by what they were watching.
Well, but it's PG, so you're good.
Right,
yeah,
but
piece of
that's
cake.
yeah, a PG movie with like full body nudity and body parts, like severed body parts, and a
Yeah,
guy getting
it's
chomped in half in one of the most horrific deaths ever.
it's
But
okay. Your parents with you, so you're good.
Yeah, you're
right,
fine. Dad's gonna pat your leg. Okay.
but the and both of those movies are produced by Steven Spielberg and his production
Correct.
company, you know, Amblin and through Universal and all that. But it's just a shame, I think, that Jurassic World Rebirth is that's the legacy half a century later from Jaws. Whereas if you had really wanted to shake things up, I feel like if you want to keep this thing going, you have to go back to the real roots of Jurassic Park. Because one of the things that made Jurassic Park great is, like Jaws, it was a scary movie. It
Oh
was
yeah.
for adults that you could bring teenagers to.
Yeah.
And it's not just, oh, dinosaurs are brought back to life. There's a lot of great conversations. I mean, think about the memes that have come out of that, not just shirtless Jeff
Totally.
Goldblum, but the whole idea of like, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Mhm.
And all of the conversations with, you know, Ellie and Dr. Grant. It's, you could take the dinosaurs out of Jurassic Park. You could have it be the entire movie, just the philosophical debates leading up to the to the disaster happening,
Yeah.
and it would still be a fantastic,
Sure
smart
would.
movie. And everything else, now I haven't seen Lost World again, but everything else has been a Xerox and a downgrade with occasional bright blips. I liked Jurassic Park 3, which I went to see, even though I hadn't seen the second one, which is fine because they're not really connected from what I understand.
Those two
No,
aren't.
they weren't.
Yeah,
Right?
not at all.
But now you get to this third movie. What do we have? A big climax where, hey, guess what? In order to distract from the giant, dangerous dinosaur that's going to eat people, you've got the one guy going out there with a flare in the dark saying, hey, over here. And you know what else you have? He's in the water, halfway up his body. He's partly submerged, which you also had in one of those Kong movies, except it was Sam Jackson instead of Mahershala Ali. And then, talking about subverting expectations to the point where nothing means anything, you've got Mahershala Ali's giant sacrifice where everybody else gets away and he's staring down the giant, you know, bulb-headed dinosaur monster thing, the Rancor, and it moves in, the mouth is all open, he's looking up in terror or resignation or whatever, and I think you hear him scream, or you hear it scream or something like that in the distance, and then guess what? A minute later, he shows up and he's fine somehow. Somehow Palpatine survived.
Yeah. No, this they are in theory they are really scraping the bottom of the barrel because, like you said, like if the dinosaurs we should be familiar with, that we learned in school, that we enjoy in books, that we love, you know, that we love as kids, when those don't show up and all we have are these mutants, it counts as, I could see the corporate meaning, like this counts as new, this counts as fun, this counts as unique. You get ScarJo, which is a big get for them after, you know, losing Chris Pratt and laying the turd with the legacy cast. And then, you know, you sit down and go, oh, we got David Koepp, you know, we'll bring the original energy back. But then you all you did was bring back the Xerox copies, you know, and it's like, I get how this movie got here. And then like you get Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala Ali classes at the place with 2 Oscars. I mean, I get why this got launched on paper, and I have fun because it's still Jurassic Park. It's still a good chase. It's still interesting. There is some sense of wonder, maybe thanks to the fact that you're going after the big dinosaurs. Like the Quetzalcoatl scene is really good in the temple. I like the Titanosaur stuff because it's, you know, big and pretty, and I was hoping to see some Titanosaurus 11 for a second there, but you know, but no, you're right. Like we've reached a point. And maybe this is the Marvel effect, and ScarJo's presence is a piece of that, where these movies are terrifically safe, very, very safe.
Yeah.
And like that's, and you talked about like movies that used to take risks and still not lose an audience because they took a risk. If anything, gain an appreciative audience because it took risks. Like we haven't seen that in a while. Like because Jaws did it. The 80s did it like crazy, where you have, you know, no one lives in Predator, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, like you're killing all kinds of people in some movies. Even when you get to like Independence Day, you're still killing the president's wife. You know, Randy Quaid's doing the big sacrifice, like Twisters, and you know, you're still losing some people and stuff like that. Like we knew how to do this, where with good character work and endearing establishment, you can take all those risks and have people lose and still win the day. But now it's like, and somewhere along the way, you're right. We were afraid to scar some lives and have some more counseling, you know, because we've got a generation that can't do this very well. And it's weird. I don't know how to explain it.
You're not just run. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I
Well,
see
no,
it as a feature where no one, like, oh, everyone's okay. It's the participation trophy of movies where everyone's okay to be here and everyone gets to be here and everyone gets to stay here. So
I just don't understand the calculus, because
me neither.
if they took a risk because it's
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 7, I feel like the calculation should be, let's do something different because we're going to be lucky if people show up to these anyway. And if
Yeah.
they do show up to it, like they showed up for this movie in droves, if they had, gone darker, gone more in the spirit of the
Just change.
original,
Yeah.
and killed some people graphically in ways that we hadn't seen for 32 years, would it have been, oh my God, I'm never taking my kid to the theater again? Or would it have been like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what I just saw at the theaters. You have to go see this.
Right.
It's
It would
unlike
increase
the
the
other
FOMO.
5 movies. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, you don't even have it just in the Jurassic World series. You have it in general. As much as I have loved my horror films, as much as I have loved the renaissance of horror films in the last, say, 10 years, it's been now since the first Halloween, how horror films have even gotten safe. If you actually look at a body count of a horror film, of a modern horror film, the actual body count of most of your bigger studio launched horror films, it is in very small, if any, numbers. The last Conjuring film had maybe one. The last film that was the Insidious series with the red door and all that, that whole, the last one had no actual deaths. They had people who had already died. They had a couple ghosts, but there was no none of the characters actually died. Hell, even Megan 2, none of your main characters at all actually end up dying in that film.
Well, I mean, they're all dead, Mark, because none of them are coming back for a third movie.
Well, no, I know, but I need that respect. But I mean, and then you have that here is that you have your big name stars, especially, or your characters, that they are just either afraid to kill or just do not want to because of contracts or who knows what.
It feels like that.
It feels like that, to where they're afraid to. If Ali's character, trust me, I liked Ali's character and performed everything out of everybody else here. I liked him. I didn't want to see him to die. The fact that I thought his character actually might die at the end, just for a brief moment, raised his character up and raised things up enough to go, okay, they're at least doing this. Because you have your stupid helicopter pilots who literally see a dinosaur that is at the height they're flying at, and they don't see the big, by the way, very quiet dinosaur. You thought the big ass dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were quiet?
Belugosaurus, he's quiet.
These ones are massive, high-rise sized dinosaurs, and you can't hear crap for them walking.
Well, I mean, they're in a helicopter, so they got the blades. Maybe I guess.
No, but
if Ali doesn't die, ScarJo should have. If you're gonna, bring it took 3 phases of a Marvel movie to kill off Robert Downey Jr., and it was supremely effective that you do that in Endgame until the multiverse corrects everything. And even ScarJo is, her death is Black Widow in Infinity War. That's Endgame, but it matters when you can at least get some of that there. You need something. I get it, but if we're doing a trilogy, and obviously she's the meal ticket, she just what did Variety say this week? Like the grosses of this have put her over Samuel Jackson as the highest grossing movie star of all time. You're probably not going to kill that person off, but Gene Hackman died in a Poseidon Adventure. You could do it if you try. You don't have to make everything so 3 contract movie stuff. Surprise.
I'm gonna ask the naive question because I haven't looked into any of this. Was this really conceived as a new trilogy? Is she under contract to do 2 more of these movies? Because I feel like, because of the way this movie ended, and because she is such a non-entity of a character, and I have no idea where they're going to go with the story with these characters, I feel like it's one of those things where they might just leave it alone for another couple of years and bring it back with, I don't know, Sydney Sweeney or somebody like it's going to be all new people discovering the 5,000th hidden research lab somewhere.
It is intended. it is intended to be the start of a new trilogy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Okay, if you want to do this as the new trilogy, actually that gives you some chances to take more risks. You easily could have implied that Ali's character died at the end of this.
Yeah.
Sacrifice, raised his character. If you do a sequel, you find out actually he's learned how to live on this planet, on this island for quite some time, and granted, yes, I know that's a cliche been done before, but that at least would put some weight,
a reason to go back in the second movie.
A reason to go back. It would put some weight, though, to this movie. This movie has no weight. As much as I enjoyed some of the action sequences and they were intense, by halfway through, you realize all the people who died as they got to the island are the people who are going to die, except for the bad guy at the end. That's it. Everybody else of our good guys we're following is not going to die. And you realize that it doesn't matter how intense your action scene is. You're like, oh, well, this is going to happen.
But Mark, I mean, to your point, if he had died, and like the sequel is we got to go back and get him, I don't think they'd follow that angle because he's such a non-entity in this movie anyway. I mean, he doesn't have a character. What he has is a very charismatic actor playing a simulacrum of a character, right?
You're right. If you establish a deeper history other than one vague conversation between ScarJo's character and Mahershala's character, where those two are inseparable in terms of partners in history, very Clint and, Natasha-ish, like, that would create a deeper reason and bond to go back in part 2 if you follow that kind of plot line. But you're right, there you don't pull that trigger and you don't even try. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it feels like everybody's competing for screen time in this. Because of the sheer volume of characters you're starting out with this, it's like insert character moment, but go on. Ali's character has this moment where it's implied about he was with his wife and they lost their child or whatnot, and it's supposed to be played for an emotional beat, but they don't let that moment breathe at all. Just like with ScarJo's character of losing her partner. It's like not even 30 seconds of where they'll get serious look on their face. You get serious kind of music cue. And all of a sudden, a whole guy comes in, or they're interrupted by a pun, or, oh, look, here comes the dinosaur. You don't even have a time to give it a moment to breathe or establish this character. You could tell, oh, this is supposed to be a character moment, but they don't actually do it properly. It's like a treatment, Mark, or an outline of a character.
I already said we're waiting till next week to talk about Superman. But anyway, I want to get to our comments here as we wrap up. But no, I take your point, Mark, and it's very true. But they do have a callback at the end where Mahershala Ali grabs the photograph of his kid, I think, and stuffs it in his pocket or something. It's very much the end of Independence Day without any of that weight. I still get choked up when Randy Quaid looks at that picture on the dashboard and tell my children I love them very much. Oh my God.
Huge. Yeah.
Or then afterwards you have the soldier go up to his son and go, your dad was very brave. And he's like, I know. I mean, that whole movie, it's like, yes, this is melodrama. This is cliche.
That's how you do it.
At your heartstrings every time because...
and you blow up cities. You have casualties. You actually put stakes to it. Like, that movie takes plenty of risks, and it's great. Yeah, they forgot how to make those movies. And it's weird because Kep should be a student of that generation and blows it. I feel bad because this is Gareth Edwards, who's a very competent director. Rogue One, Godzilla, I like the creator a year or two ago. Like he's a good action hand who can deliver something in on a good budget with smart effects. Like they're not going to look bad, strong filmmaker, but stuck in this.
I have no issue at all with the filmmaking here. I mean, it fits perfectly well in with the Jurassic world established franchise, playbook. But it is the script is just more kind of garbage. So, all right, we're going to go through some comments, which started off at the very beginning of the show. So David Wilt, what makes the original movie and novel very fantastic is that it was about the unchecked power of the consequence of playing God. The characters of Lex and Tim are different in the book than the way they are portrayed in the movie. In the book, Lex is the jock and Tim is the computer genius. Also, the character John Hammond is a villainous character. I still need to read the original Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, no, the original book is amazing. It is different than the book, but I enjoyed both. But they are different.
Well, the thing is, like, the other thing that annoys me, and this is the Every Movie Has a Lesson side of Don, like, we're on movie number 7. We're on year 32 of all this franchise, and we're still making the same dumb mistakes. Like, financial, scientific gain from something you can't control. Like, have we not learned this lesson yet? Like, it's the same every movie. Like, they need a different screw up or a different mistake or a different hubris. It's the same one every time, and that's getting old too.
I would have loved it's a small thing, but by number 7, I would have loved that this wasn't InGen, that this was the competing company that, Nedry was trying to take the Embreeze to in the first place. They found some other way. Here 30 some years later, they found some other way to do the experiments, and their experiments went awry.
They had the crappy subproducts or this island.
At least make it not InGen. If you didn't make it not InGen, completely changes at least the prospect of your genetic mutations.
Timeline too, like, because again, if this island is doing what it's doing, it should have been here 35 years ago and not a mystery today. It would make a lot more sense if this is the competitor's screw ups.
Right.
Totally. Great idea.
Yeah, and I also, there's a lot of questions about 3 decades of all this stuff going around. You would think that there wouldn't be any undiscovered islands that would have been like mapped or captured by some like government agency, which could open up its own can of worms. So let's get back to the comments.
Where's the Aldi of Jurassic Park? Like, where's the knockoff? Where's the cream-filled sandwiches of the Oreos? Come on,
great value in Jurassic Park. I love it. Yeah. Miguel, the franchise is at its end, and I would be surprised if there's another trilogy following this chapter in the franchise. I feel it fell flat, and the characters were not believable and had no depth. Exactly.
But they can get away with it because look at the money it's rolling in. Like, just give people an easy, good time. I fell for it, and people will come out. They'll be like, I just want to watch the easy thing. It's weird.
Don, next week, Superman next week.
Oh, no, that's
David Wilt, the original movie is sort of a retelling of Michael Crichton's movie Westworld, released 20 years prior, which also involves an amusement park and creations turning on their creators. Again, great film, dangerous movie. Yeah. Oh, wow. Westworld. It's David Kepnatui. Yeah, we read that one. Thank you, Charlie. Some of Michael Crichton's work involved the themes of conspiracy, like his 1978 movie Coma with Michael Douglas, which involves a plot to put people into comas. Another Michael Crichton movie with Michael Douglas, which involves a conspiracy, was the movie Disclosure, in which his character is sexually harassed by his boss, who happens to be a woman. I never saw that one. I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was actually that was good because you had Demi Moore as the boss, and I enjoyed that one quite a bit. It ruffled feathers, but it was supposed to. You even have your conspiracy in Contact.
Oh yeah, is that right?
That's Vegan, but that was
you can do like Andromeda Strain, Sphere, like he's kind of all up in there.
Sphere, Sphere was another one. Yeah.
Miguel says, "Hey, let me go over by this giant T-Rex sleeping to drag this inflatable raft case that weighs 300 pounds and inflate it. Try not to wake it up or draw its attention." Exactly.
Yeah.
I will never eat Snickers around modern technology. It just can't mix. That's true. David Wilt says, I think that when the novel The Lost World came out, a lot of people thought it was a retelling of the classic Sir Arthur Conan Doyle book, which also became a very classic silent movie, which also involved a dinosaur that is found on an island, is brought back, and goes on a rampage. Interesting. Charlie Brown.
The best part of that second movie is it getting loose in San Diego. It's awesome. Like, it's like a little mini Godzilla movie for a second there.
You're warming me up. You're warming me up to talking about another Jurassic movie, but not a new one. So maybe one of these days. Well, that turns 30 in like 2 years. So
97.
Who knows? Charlie Brown Blockhead 50 says The Lost World is pretty solid, not as good as Jurassic Park, but it's fun. Okay, adding fuel to the discussion. Speaking of Disney, in the original movie, the character of Ian Malcolm kind of jokes on the Pirates of the Caribbean. The pirates don't eat the tourists. True. Sergio Garcia says the Snickers Final Destination scene. I was like, seriously?
Yeah, so true.
Like
So true.
Again, if you
Good
had
call,
had
Serge.
if you had had the candy bar mixed with the dinosaur DNA, I would have JURASSIC Park. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Man.
ScarJo's character is duller than
Wow.
Jyn Erso from Rogue One. Yes, very true. Damon Wayans says the scientist dude performance was terrible. They should have cut out the family just dragged on the film. Yep.
That would be my question. It feels like cocktail napkin ideas, which we've talked about in this show, where like there's probably not enough narrative just to do the scientists and the boat, and there's definitely not enough narrative to just do the family and the yacht, where neither one of them could hold a movie yet, so they squish them together here,
Well,
right?
you could have literally done. If this film would have been better had they taken the angle of aliens, but with dinosaurs on Dinosaur Island. If they would have taken the tone of aliens on this, to where you have your folks, your military folks going for this, still go for the cure and anything, take the family out, add more danger and more stakes to your group of soldiers who are supposed to be badass.
Yeah.
That gives you at least a little bit more stake and makes you realize there's a threat on the island, versus here where I never really felt the threat much with any of our main guys. The family, sure, but that was all, again, child in peril.
Yeah.
And the strongest rubber raft ever.
No kidding. But that's the other thing. Like, Universal will never let this movie not have a child in peril. Like, I think every single one of the 6 movies before this has had a child performance that was crucial to whatever their appeal was. Like, if you just do an alien roughneck version of this movie, which would be awesome, they'll never do it because there's no kids in it. Never.
Well, I mean, it is part of the cliche package. I mean, just like at the end of this movie, you've got the D-Rex roaring in the same kind of like amphitheater with the banner behind it and everything. I will say, I think there is a way to do a different version of this movie that would be more in line with another movie I hate, which a lot of people love and did really well at the box office, which is Alien Romulus. If you had just focused on this family going out on this seafaring adventure, like this one last trip before, the daughter goes to college, maybe you make the boyfriend likable or, kind of a doofus, but not a jerk.
Yeah.
And then they get attacked and they end up taking refuge on this island, which happens to be this, closed down research facility, but there's stuff that they inadvertently wake up or they don't realize where they are. That's Alien Romulus essentially. And I think you could have done something like that with but you've got the
recupping and that stuff, right? Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that was like William H. Macy and like those were like still
parents trying to find their
people, right?
Yeah. Those parents trying to find your people. You have the group here. And you're absolutely right. You could do that. Take your dinosaur scientist character, make the little girl the dinosaur expert. Okay. Make her
watch your Fountain of Youth too much right now.
No, but listen to it. She's the one that's read up on dinosaurs enough because she's been around dinosaurs all her life. Make the sister also know dinosaurs, but she's been a little bit resistant that she knows enough about dinosaurs because she's been trying to be the cool kid.
I've seen that movie. It's called a Minecraft movie.
Yes. But you could also make the loser boyfriend kid actually be useful, find a skill or something to where, he's not as knowledgeable as anyone. Yes, but take those elements. This is already stealing from elements anyway.
True.
But throw some of those elements to your family in peril and have them make it across the island using her knowledge, his skills of survival, the dad trying to keep them all together and buy into the fact that, hey, maybe these kids do know something. Play the angle of the dad not really believing in the kid, but you could have played it. I think there was enough there. You could have done that, and it wouldn't have needed to be 2 hours. You could have made a nice 90-some minute family tries to get off the island movie, and you would at least had some more stakes involved. You could, you would still have some more tension. And it would at least be a little bit more personable. This film never gets personable. You even in the original Jurassic Park and even its 2 sequels after it, you had personable characters. You had, like I said, those moments, but they were handled with more weight than here. We get character beats, but no weight. There's no weight here whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think, you mentioned Minecraft. Don. And I think
I'm-
that's a close to
Yeah.
that's $1 billion movie. So
It
there
is.
is something
No,
to
it would work.
that,
Yeah.
that formula working there. And I think the
Yeah.
other idea that I like is that you don't have these people with the only cool thing I thought was in this movie, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it somewhere else, so I don't know that it necessarily counts, is the way they collect the dino DNAs. They've got these syringes that
Yeah.
they collect them into these like little drones that then eject them into the air after they're done getting their sample, and they land with the parachute because it's the only way to really get this stuff because they're dangerous. That's kind of fun, but you take out all the cool equipment and the weapons, and you just have people having to fend for themselves and even make weapons, make tools, go full Ewok on this island trying to survive. You don't even need nefarious human characters like them just fighting against raptors and mutants. I think that would have been fun.
Let's do what we really mean to do. The dinosaur should be the villain every time. Not a human, not science, not hubris, not money. The dinosaur should be the villain every damn time.
Right, and not even necessarily villains, but just natural predators. I want to eat you because you are smaller than me and I can. Jade Caldera says supposedly he was supposed to die and the execs made the director change it.
Oh boy, I wouldn't put that past him.
That sounds like a producer thing for sure.
Well, Charlie Brown Blackhead 50 says the producer Frank Marshall claimed that David Koepp wrote the script for Rebirth fast. No kidding.
Yeah, Xerox is a quick machine.
Yeah, Chat GPT helped him with that.
Quick.
I would not be surprised at all.
No.
Gareth Edwards is a decent director. Monsters is good, and Godzilla was great.
About that,
I love you, Charlie Brown Blackhead 50, but hard to disagree on both. But get used to that.
It's another
we got
sneaky dinosaur wearing Crocs.
I used to like Rogue One, but my opinion on it soured later on. The creator was middling but harmless, and Rebirth is trash. That's the thing, is I didn't like the creator either, but I respected the hell of it because it was it was famously made for like the catering budget of most of these other movies.
Right.
Crazy. Katie, where are you?
She messaged us earlier.
Oh, I missed it. Okay. It was a fun time besides the Land of the Lost CGI with the humans in the river. That sounds like a title for a movie, Humans in the River. Turn whatever the raft is made of into dental dam and all STDs are eradicated.
Hey, screw heart disease. We should be making penis pills, okay?
We should be making prophylactics out of whatever that rubber is made of.
Right.
Hell yeah.
A eugenics ad. Frank Thomas and you should be here right now.
In the ass in Jurassic World.
There you go. That's a different movie.
Yeah. I hope Gareth Edwards stops directing franchise movies just so he could focus on making his own original projects, like The Creator, which again I didn't love, but I respect it. So.
Here's the other thing too. You look at the special effects of The Creator, and I know we've said the CGI was rough in this one too. There's some scenes where they're climbing on a rock face, which I'm like, how do you get this screwed up? But you could tell it's just a little CG model thing. It's like, or where they're repelling in some of the scenes as well. Some of the scenes look great, and some of them were really rough that you could tell they were rough. Whereas you look at The Creator, and you're right, Ian, for the budget that they made that film at, or the prime example, Godzilla -1, for crying out loud. You look at the special effects that they used there, and you're wondering, what is these and the other thing that was missing from Rebirth, not one of your dinosaurs this time around was had a practical effect model at any point.
When was the last time we got one of those in these movies?
No, in the other ones they used bits of not as much. It was more of a mixture, but there were moments where they still built models and small, either partial animatronics or something. They had some practical effects with the dinosaurs, and this was the first one, according to what my son was reading up on their way home. This was the first one where they used all CGI dinosaurs. There wasn't a single practical model or anything.
Number. That's why it costs so much.
Well, but I mean, here's the thing. I feel like that's kind of a plus, because I would hate for some practical effects artisan to spend all his time slaving away on dinosaurs for this crappy movie.
Very true. Very true.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. Any final thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth, or even just the Jurassic franchise? Because as I mentioned, this is a low-key funeral for the franchise as far as kicking the seat is concerned. I'm not watching, not discussing, barely thinking about any new movies going forward, but I might have to revisit Lost World in a couple years for the anniversary.
I will. My closing thought is echoing your theory, and is that while all of us love that meme going around of like, especially with the Superman movie coming out, like for somebody this will be their first Superman movie, this will be their first Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movie, and they're gonna love it, and that's cool. Like, but I do hope like discerning consumers and smart fans and just dedicated movie fans that people go back and find the OGs that got it here, because yeah, there's a masterpiece back there, and there's some fun stuff that can just add to what maybe they fell in love with here. So I hope new audiences find the old stuff, and for all of us old heads who love the old stuff, we all got the discs on the wall. We're good to go.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess my final thought is while I've been dogging on it for most of this episode, there were moments I did enjoy in this film. But as I stated, my immediate thoughts were, though, it is a fun but forget film. This is a fun and forgettable film. You could pop this in with a group or whatever, especially if they haven't seen it before. You could watch it, but there's nothing in here that remotely, even in the previous Jurassic World, everybody remembers the brontosaurus at the end trying to climb on the pier with the explosion behind it, and actually making you feel Fallen Kingdom, making you play the emotion angle a little bit. And there's many people I know that out of all the film, they said they didn't quite care for them, but they're like, the way they set that scene up, they remember that scene. There was,
and you're like, is that the original Brachiosaurus? He's not going to make it.
There was none of those real memorable moments that most of these other sequels have at least had. It goes too fast. It tries to do all of this, but yet never really accomplishes anything. It never sticks any landing. So yeah, you've got intense moments, just naturally intense, with your kids in peril and the dinosaur chases and the way they're directed. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you realize, oh, that was it. Everybody here is who I thought would be here. There are no stakes. There's no things taking chances. There's no real stakes at all that you ever feel in this movie. And that's the problem that you have with it. The other ones, at least, it felt like there may be a little bit of stakes in it, even as minor as it was. Here, there really isn't.
Yeah. Well, I think, and somebody said, Mark, like, you could put this on with friends. I feel like that's a fiction. Like, in order to do that, you would have to have had people over and either pulled it off the shelf or rented it. And I just feel like you're going to do that with the original Jurassic Park, but who's going to own this movie? Who's going to say, yeah, I want
it's going to be on your streaming service. No, it'll be on your streaming service. You won't have to. It'll be
okay. It'll be like, oh, that was a good time.
Part of your subscription. It'll be part of your subscription. So,
okay. But even then, you've got all the Jurassic movies. And you're like,
and this is the one you stop on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have. Well, that's why ScarJo and Jonathan Bailey are here. Like, there's gonna be people who will just come for those two, and
I'd come for those two, but nothing that I want to discuss here on the live stream. Okay. But anyway, we're gonna go. I want to thank everyone for hanging out and your lovely comments and discussion. This has been Earth's Mightiest Critics review of Jurassic World Rebirth, and as I mentioned, the final Jurassic review on this channel, minus possibly Jurassic World in a couple of years. So without further ado, I'm going to bid farewell until next week to Don Shanahan of Film Obsessive and Every Movie Has a Lesson, Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck, turning 50 today. How's that feel?
Actually, it was a really good day. I don't know. I'll let you know tomorrow if my knees start sounding like Rice Krispies again.
Melatonin tonight, young man.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, the happiest of birthdays, and again, thank you so much for spending it with us. I feel this is a true honor that this is how you want to spend your birthday night, talking Jurassic World 7 or Park, whatever.
Just talking movies. So,
Well, love talking movies, you guys. That may change next week. Next week, we're going to be back talking about Superman, James Gunn's Superman. And I implore all of you to check out the public service announcement I launched, which the YouTube filters they are reviewing it now as possible spam.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because
It's-
the wording that you
Yes,
probably have. for
I
your-
titled it "Superman's Dead." Watch this instead. The least spammy title you could think of for a YouTube video, right? No,
Okay.
but yeah, go check that out on the Kicking the Seat channel. And I may be talking into the wind. That's totally fine. That's what I do. I am the last guy anyone asks, and I am also the host of this podcast, which you can like and subscribe to, and ring the bell for notifications, all that good stuff, and support all of Earth's Mightiest critics, including my lovely guests here and the other folks who could not make it tonight. All their information is down below. And until next time. Oh, by the way, thank you to everyone who hung out in the chat or dropped in just to watch, whatever you did. Until next time, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care. And I don't know. I was going to say something else about Jurassic Park. Like, I feel like I should give it a better send off, but unfortunately,
Watch the original.
Yep.
That's it.